So, hey, Americans, I'm Lucy, and Omar is the Lord tonight, directing from here, Angel of Deathfest in Netherlands. I'm going to interview Terzij the Horde. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Um, my first question is uh, in one of these, I am your enemy. Terzij the Horde's last full-length album, released in 2022,
Yeah.
had good critics and reviews so far.
hmm
The album has 3 tracks and lasts around 30 minutes. Yeah?
Yes.
Could you speak more about each one of the tracks, please?
Yeah, for sure. Um, so in one of these, "I'm Your Enemy," the album title, and therefore also the song that's called that has the same title, um, refers to a story by Borges called "The Garden of Forking Paths," and this is a story about a labyrinth that exists in time. Different universes and different realities are sort of emerging in it, and sort of the branches of the labyrinth are in time. And so this is about different scenarios emerging, and in some scenarios in the story, different characters would be each other's enemies or their best friends, and this is sort of part of the story.
Okay.
And so maybe to start with that middle song, in one of these, "I'm Your Enemy," this is a song that is about um, different realities clashing, and it's about the power struggle for who gets to determine what reality is. It's the politics of ideology. It's the politics of what is the world, what is the future, and what does not count, and whose realities do not count, and the conflicts between these different realities, essentially. Right. So it's in a way uh, quite fundamental to a lot of the things that are happening in the world right now. And yeah, and that's over the overarching theme of the album. But that song is really dives into that topic. And
Okay.
but the other two songs connect to this. So the first track of the album is called Chiron. This is the teacher of the gods, the teacher of the heroes, and a centaur. And this is a song that is about the power of education. So I'm a university researcher and lecturer, an associate professor at Utrecht University, and our bass player is a teacher. He teaches English in high school, and so we write these songs together, these lyrics together. And so this song is really about the wonderful, but also in a way terrible power that people hold over the shaping of the minds of the next generations. So right, so that sort of theme of reality shaping and different realities clashing is part of that song as well. And then finally, the song "Precipice" is a song that is about it's really about who gets to determine who is considered to be human. So this is about people who are not considered fully human by others, who are living on the precipice of full existence. You know, they have extraordinary status that is very fragile and that can be taken away by politics. Right? So we're talking about migrants and refugees in situations where they, you know, their reality isn't fully acknowledged, for instance, right? So that would be one example. But many people who are living in that sort of like shadow area of whether other people can decide if they are allowed to exist or not. That's what the final song is about. So again, it's about the sort of social construction of reality and who gets to determine what is real, what is human, and so on. Yeah.
Okay. Really interesting.
Mm.
So why have you chosen this 3 tracks format for an album?
So the album is rather short, and we wanted to make something that is full of fire, full of energy, and that doesn't outstay its welcome. The band comes from a punk background, so we have a sort of hardcore punk aesthetic somehow, or attitude, I would say, and work ethic. And I think that that informs the sort of choice of 3 songs. We typically tend to write these long epics, so two of the songs are very long. But then there's Chiron, which is quite a compact and just very angry song that provides sort of like an opener for the album in that way. So yeah, so songs that have lots going on, lots of dynamic sort of changes, but packed in a small space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there is a hiatus of 7 years between the debut album called Self, released in 2015, and in one of these, I'm Your Enemy.
Yeah, that's right.
So could you compare both albums based on your personal perspective?
So Self is a longer album. There's more music there. There's a larger number of songs there that each cover different themes around this notion of self. It's very focused on personal identity, the sense of self. And it's quite existential in that way, and every song sort of reflects a different way in which the self is transcended or realized or destroyed or taken over. And so how it relates to in one of these I'm Your Enemy is that with that album we went conceptually much more towards the social and the sort of like the large scale political shared shaping of reality, you know. Music wise I would say that the last album is kind of a natural evolution of that, but of that previous one. But the difference is that we were able to spend a lot of time on these three songs. So lots and lots of work went into the recording and the production of this short album, and I think it, in some ways, is the closest we've ever come to capturing what we feel we sound like. And we're very happy with the production of Self, and it has a lot of fans as well. But I think that with our new album, we've really gotten closer to the fire that Terzij Horde is like, and I think the reactions have shown that it comes across.
Yeah. Okay. So last April, you released a split album as well. Yeah. Could you give us more details about it?
Yeah, so there's a split release, 10-inch with the band Ghoul, which is a band from Tilburg, a doom band, good friends of ours. We played with them many times. Last year we did a project at Roadburn, so not the past Roadburn, but the Roadburn before, also in 2022, where we played a number of songs together and sort of in different mixes. And the way we did that is that we received the drum tracks of a track that is originally a Ghoul track, and we gave Ghoul a drum track from Terzij Horde, and we each wrote a new song on top of each other's drum tracks. So we wrote a song called "A Robe of Words," which is on a doom drum bass by Ghoul, basically, and this is a very doomy song for us, and normally we're a lot faster. And Ghoul wrote a song over our drum tracks, black metal drum tracks called Poison Arrow. It's a really interesting project. We performed it live, and it was really interesting because I remember us setting up and preparing at Roadburn. We played one of the bigger stages there, and the monitor person there thought we were joking, that we were constantly shifting, like switching drummers and all kinds of stuff. And then finally we played two Ghoul songs together as a sort of a combined band. So we had two drummers, we had all the guitarists and bassists on stage, and so had sort of double vocals, and that was just this thunderous thing. So it was always the idea to also have a studio version of this project. So we did that, and that came out this year. And so it was a really fantastic, very strange collaboration. Really interesting experience.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, Terzij de Horde is a band originally from Utrecht, here Netherlands, and it seems that Utrecht black metal bands have a kind of progressive character.
That's right.
So, do you agree with it? And how is the metal scene in Utrecht through your perspective?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting history. We started, so when Terzij de Horde started a long time ago, and the band officially sort of started in 2010. Although we had been making music in different sort of formations before, there wasn't a lot of our kind of black metal in Utrecht at that time. So we decided to actually start our own festival or our own evenings, and just invite bands that we liked. So we invited lots of bands from internationally, even from Iceland, like Zwarte Dode, came to play us, play our festival and things like that. And that way we built a kind of community around a venue called Daybase, primarily, also some other venues in Utrecht. And the community started to spawn other bands as well. and so we invited other bands to play, and so a whole sort of scene emerged, not only because of us, but partly because of this sort of like these shows. And it ended up with lots of bands, like Luster, Vervoort, Wezenwille, Grey Aura, all these, like you say, progressive black metal bands. Yeah, it's a really interesting scene. Like all these bands sound very different from each other, but we have lots of connections with each other, and and it is also politically quite progressive. It's quite leftist scene compared to maybe some other parts of black metal, and this is and it has a lot of links to punk. Yeah, it's a really sort of a vibrant collective and community in some ways, but everyone's really doing their own things. So yeah, it's great to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good. And which are your impressions about tonight's concert here in Engel of Deathfest 2? How was it?
It's great. It's an amazing venue. It's a real metal show. So with Terzij Horde, we play a lot of metal shows, but we also play weird interdisciplinary festivals, all kind and punk. Last week we played a show that was the last show at this venue, Base, where we started the scene. And the Base they have to move to another place. So we played the last show there, and we decided to invite 2 hardcore punk bands to play with us because we have this hardcore punk roots in a way. But here it's metal. It's really a metal show. The atmosphere is very much like this, and it's really wonderful to play. It's a great stage. Lots of wonderful people coming. Some friends have come to visit. It's cool. Yeah, it's good.
Nice. So you are deeply inspired by authors and philosophers to write the lyrics. So which are they, and why do they inspire you that much?
Yeah, so it depends a bit. It depends a bit song by song. So I'm an academic, and actually our bass player is also an academic.
Yeah.
So we write the lyrics together. So we have these reading lists in our releases, so you can sort of like work out what it is. So so for instance, there's a lot of writing about sort of world making and something around the politics of reality shaping that we are inspired by. But sort of the big author that inspired the band as a whole is Hendrik Marsman, who's the poet whose the name comes from a Hendrik Marsman poem. Terzij de Horde, meaning sort of set apart from the horde, comes from one of his poems. And so Marsman has always been an influence. And we translated a bunch of Marsman's lyrics, or Marsman's poetry, I should say, to English, because in the Netherlands he's fairly well known, but most of his poetry has not been translated to English. So we did that. We recorded a song with 2 of his poems as the lyrics in Dutch. We released a booklet with his poetry translated, and that got picked up, and it's also in the National Library now. So it's like a recognized translation of his work. So really nice project. Yeah,
for sure. For sure. Nice. So what are Terzij de Horde's plans for the future? Gigs scheduled or material for a new album?
Yeah, so we played a new song tonight. That's among the songs that we are writing for our new release, which we are creating over the next year or so, I would say. We have found since the last album a good sort of way of working where we can produce something a little bit more quickly, because of course it was 7 years in between. Now we have this album and the split EP with Ghoul, so things are moving quite quickly suddenly, and so we want to keep up that pace. So yeah, there's that is really our focus at the moment. It's a new material. Yeah, we have some shows lined up and so on, but yeah, a new release is really the focus, I would say. And yeah, thematically, we're exploring lots of ideas again. We're reading lots of things. That's sort of part of it, part of the process. Yeah. Yeah.
And what are your main metal influences as a musician?
Yeah, this is a really good question. At this point, we've been around for so long that we have a lot of our own material as reference in a way. There's a Terzij de Horde style that's quite clear, and that is our starting point. It's a little bit hard to say specific influences, but I would say that the energy and the chaos of really, like, next to black metal, obviously, right? But of really sort of ancient screamo, like really obscure screamo that no one listens to anymore. Like bands like Orchid, Neil Perry, this kind of stuff has been a big influence because of the emotional intensity of that. Yeah? And I also think of hardcore bands like Cursed, this sort of like intense. There's a band called Buried Inside. It's like an old post-core band from a sort of early 2000s relapse era that I still listen to a lot, and we still listen to a lot, and that still inspires us. I mean, the bands that I'm most impressed by in the current sort of black metal or black metal adjacent scene right now are bands like Alcardil, a Belgian band. Just their live, they're just incredible and really, really intense and really fantastic, really extroverted and connected. And Yellow Eyes. So Yellow Eyes is just an amazing band, you know, fantastic original songwriting, lots of things going on there. And we don't sound like Yellow Eyes, but the originality and the sort of uniqueness of their approach, we try to also have this for our own music, you know.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say we say, okay, this is the influence, this is the influence, but there are definitely bands that inspire us because they are doing their own thing, you know.
Yeah, and not a copy of something else.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And are there any no metal influences?
Yeah, no metal influences.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. I mean, in terms of inspirational music, we have had a little bit of neo-folk influence here and there, just mostly in our Marsmont track, I would say. Um, yeah, there's lots of music that we listen to together that I think inspires us in terms of writing and in terms of atmosphere, but I don't know how it directly influences the writing. The first person that comes to mind or music that comes to mind is Jason Molina and Songs Ohaya, which is very calm and sort of like meditative music and doesn't really connect to us musically, but there's something about that depth that I think
That inspires you somehow.
inspires us. Yeah, so that would be one answer. But,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Good. And now I have a situation really expected from our viewers. So suppose you are a bad guy, got in trouble, and had life imprisonment for the rest of your life, because and you can. Because you can take nothing with you but 3 albums that the guard of the prison give you as a present. So which are these albums that you are going to listen for the rest of your life, and maybe why, if there's a reason?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know at least one. I know at least one. So the one would be this. My personal favorite album of all time is East by Joanna Newsom, which is just this fantastic, very elaborate, very orchestral, harp-based album, and it's just the lyrics are amazing, the song structures are amazing. I don't really know why this album exists. It's so beautiful, it's incredible. So I think that one. Forever, huh?
Yeah. That's the idea.
Yeah. I think the second one would be. I'm really thinking between the first or the second Opeth album, so Orchid or Morning Rise. Both of these albums have this really interesting style that they completely departed from later. I don't know if you know these albums, but it started with these sort of like very thin sound and these twin lead guitars just sort of like dancing around each other. A very Göteborg sort of melodic death metal sound. Really incredible, and I can just listen to those albums again and again and again. And I think I don't really know which one to choose from those two, but I would probably choose Orchid because Morning Rise is a little bit easier to get to the bottom of. Orchid is a bit more chaotic and strange, and a bit, it's the songwriting. Maybe you could say is not that good, but I like it because it's just like they just write a riff and then another one, and so there's lots to sort of like play with because it's not so well developed in a way. So that would be the second one. Oh, the third album. Yeah, the third album I would play forever. I don't know. I'm thinking it would be. Like there's lots of sort of like songwriters that I love in that way. That would be a Bob Dylan or a Sufjan Stevens or something like that. But forever though,
Yeah.
I think it would probably be maybe Carrie and Lowell by Sufjan Stevens. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, very soft, very calm,
Yeah.
very beautiful. Yeah. I was just listening to his new album, and that's incredible. And his partner just died, and it's all the sadness is in that album. So maybe that one will beat it. But look, that's early days. So I've listened to that Sufjan Stevens album a million times. So, and it's a nice mix. You've got like weird folk music, metal, and something very calm and very melancholic.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Great. So now to finish our interview, would you like to leave a message to your fans who are watching us?
Yeah. And now I feel like I'm in the role of a teacher. You know, I can say anything. I can say anything.
Yeah.
I would say, look, I'm a sustainability teacher. I teach about climate change and stuff like that, right? And I would say, if you feel disempowered, hopeless, angry, anxious, fucking sad about the state of the world, I think find spaces to express those emotions, because the expressing of those emotions, of that anger, of that rage, of that sadness, of that angst, is the starting point for change. Because if we can create spaces like metal shows for these kinds of emotions, then we can recognize that we all have them and something can happen. And I can tell you that because sociological research clearly indicates that this is the case. You know, rage is more useful than hope. So metal is in a good place to change society, I would say. That's my message. Yeah?
Oh,
A little mini lecture, you know.
Yeah, great. Love it. Okay, so thank you once more.
Thank you.
Yeah, and